Will's powers. Will Byers will develop Vecna-like abilities in Season 5 of Stranger Things. His extended time in the Upside Down during Season 1, combined with his possession by the Mind Flayer in Season 2, created a permanent connection that goes beyond simple awareness. Throughout Season 4, Will demonstrates what fans call true sight, the ability to sense when Vecna is active or when the Upside Down is near. He feels the Mind Flayer's presence at multiple points, getting chills on his neck and knowing exactly when something is wrong in Hawkins, despite being in California. The Duffer Brothers confirmed in interviews that Will would be central to Season 5's story, calling him crucial to the final battle. His artistic visions have shown remarkable accuracy, from drawing the Mind Flayer before anyone knew what it looked like to sensing the tunnel system beneath Hawkins. The theory suggests Will has developed abilities similar to Henry Creel's original powers, the empathic connection and perception that made Henry special before he became Vecna. Will even told Mike in Season 4 that he would always be able to feel the Upside Down, that it would never truly leave him. If this theory proves correct, Will won't just sense the enemy in Season 5, he'll become a weapon against it, using his connection to track Vecna and potentially infiltrate his mind the same way Vecna infiltrates others. His role would shift from victim to warrior, using the very curse that haunted him as his greatest strength. Vecna's origin. Henry Creel did not create the Upside Down. This theory argues that Vecna discovered an already existing dimension and claimed it as his domain rather than manifesting it from nothing. The evidence centers on the Upside Down being frozen in time at the moment Will disappeared on November 6, 1983. When Nancy enters the Upside Down in Season 4, she finds her bedroom exactly as it was in 1983, complete with her guns and old posters. If Vecna created the dimension when 11 banished him in 1979, why would it freeze at a date 4 years later? Dustin theorizes that the Upside Down is stuck at the moment 11 opened the first gate, suggesting the dimension existed beforehand and merely became accessible then. The Mind Flayer's presence further complicates Vecna's claim of creation, as the shadow monster appears to be an ancient entity, not something Henry invented. Season 5 will likely reveal that the Upside Down is a primordial dimension, a dark mirror of our reality that has always existed. Vecna simply found it first and shaped it to his will. This changes the stakes entirely because it means closing gates won't destroy the Upside Down, it will simply cut off access. The dimension will continue existing, waiting for the next person to breach the barrier. Max's consciousness. Max Mayfield is not brain dead, but trapped inside Vecna's mind. The hospital monitors at the end of Season 4 show minimal brain activity, not zero, suggesting something of Max remains even though her eyes won't open. This theory proposes that Vecna captured Max's consciousness in the moment before 11 intervened, pulling her mind into his psychic lair just as he did with his other victims. When 11 enters Max's mind and finds nothing, it's because Max isn't in her own head anymore, she's imprisoned in Vecna's. The Season 4 finale shows Vecna's mind layer filled with the twisted memories and suffering of his victims, a psychic prison where he keeps pieces of the people he's killed. Max would be there, conscious and aware, but unable to escape or communicate. Lucas, sitting beside her hospital bed, talking to her, and playing her favorite music, could be reaching her even in that prison. The theory suggests Season 5 will involve 11, possibly with Will's help, entering Vecna's mind to rescue Max's consciousness. This would parallel 11's piggybacking ability, but instead of observing, she would need to fight Vecna on his home turf. The rescue mission would be extremely dangerous, because entering Vecna's mind means becoming vulnerable to his full power, but it's the only way to truly bring Max back. Hawkins' destruction. Hawkins, Indiana will be completely destroyed by the end of Stranger Things, Season 5. The massive earthquake at the end of Season 4 split the town into 4 sections along the gate lines, and the Duffer Brothers have stated that Season 5 will feature real consequences and permanent losses. The downtown area already lies in ruins, with buildings collapsed and fires burning. The military has established a perimeter around the town, and civilians are evacuating in waves, recognizing that Hawkins is no longer safe. The theory argues this isn't just temporary damage, but foreshadowing of total destruction. Either the final battle will level the entire town, or the government will quarantine and abandon it, turning Hawkins into a permanent dead zone. The rift between dimensions keeps growing, with the Upside Down bleeding into reality through the 4 massive gates. Even if the characters defeat Vecna, the dimensional damage may be irreversible. Hawkins could become a permanent scar, a place where the barriers between worlds broke down completely. This would give the series ending real weight. The characters save the world, but lose their home forever. They can't just go back to normal life in Hawkins, because Hawkins won't exist anymore. The town that defined Stranger Things from the first episode will become a crater, a memorial to the cost of fighting the Upside Down. Upside Down Spread. The Upside Down will spread beyond Hawkins in Season 5. The 4 gates created at the end of Season 4 aren't static, they're actively growing and releasing corruption into the surrounding area. The red lightning and dark particles drifting through Hawkins don't stay contained within the town limits. Wind. Patterns and atmospheric conditions would carry those spores outward, potentially infecting nearby cities and towns. The theory points to the red sky above Hawkins in the final shots of Season 4, a visual indicator that the Upside Down's influence extends upward and outward. If left unchecked, the dimensional bleed could spread across Indiana, then neighboring states, eventually consuming the entire world. This escalation transforms the threat from local to global. It's no longer just about saving Hawkins, but about preventing worldwide contamination. The military presence suggests the government understands this risk, which is why they've quarantined the area, but quarantine only works if the spread can be contained, and the evidence suggests it can't. The particles are airborne, the corruption is active, and the gates keep expanding. Season 5 would show the early stages of this spread, with reports of strange occurrences in nearby towns, animals acting strangely, and people experiencing visions or connections to the Upside Down. The clock is ticking, and if the characters don't close the gates soon, it won't matter if they defeat Vecna, because the Upside Down will have already won. 11's power loss. 11 will permanently lose her powers after defeating Vecna. Throughout Stranger Things, Elle's abilities have come with increasing physical cost. Her nosebleeds have grown worse, the mental strain more severe, and her recovery time longer after each major use of her powers. In Season 4, she needs to enter a sensory deprivation tank and relive traumatic memories just to regain her abilities after losing them. Dr. Brenner warned her repeatedly about pushing too hard, about the limits of what her body and mind can endure. The theory suggests that defeating Vecna will require 11 to use every ounce of power she possesses, burning out her abilities completely in the process. This would be the ultimate sacrifice, not her life, but the thing that made her special. It fits thematically with the show's emphasis on breaking cycles. 11 has been defined by her powers since birth, trained as a weapon, hunted as an asset, feared as a monster. Losing her abilities would finally let her be just a person, just Jane. She could have the normal life she's always wanted, go to school, have a family, grow old without the government or interdimensional monsters hunting her. The loss would be permanent, but also liberating. She saves the world one final time, then walks away from that life forever. Mike and the others would love her without her powers, proving she was never valuable because of what she could do, but because of who she is. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this kind of content, I make videos like this all the time. A subscription would really help out. Vecna's weakness. Music is not the real defense against Vecna. The theory argues that Kate Bush's running up that hill didn't save Max because of the song itself, but because of the emotional connection and memories it represented. When Max was trapped in Vecna's curse, hearing her favorite song reminded her of her friends, of Lucas, of reasons to live and fight. It was the human connection, not the music, that created the lifeline back to reality. This explains why Vecna targets isolated, traumatized individuals. His power relies on victims being alone in their guilt and pain. When someone reaches through that isolation with genuine love and shared memory, Vecna's hold weakens. Lucas calling to Max, begging her to come back, created a tether that Elle could follow into Max's mind. The theory suggests Season 5 will weaponize this understanding. The characters won't defeat Vecna through music playlists, but through their bonds with each other, their shared experiences, and collective strength. Vecna's mind layer is filled with stolen memories and twisted pain, but the characters can counter it with their own memories, the genuine connections that define them. This would make the final battle less about individual power and more about the group's unity. Vecna is powerful because he's alone in his hate. The Stranger Things crew is powerful because they're together in their love. That contrast becomes the key to victory. The final gate. The original gate at Hawkins National Laboratory is the key to ending everything. This theory proposes that the first Gate 11 opened in 1983 wasn't just another doorway, but the prime gate, the central point from which all other breaches stem. When 11 opened that gate, she created a permanent weak point between dimensions. Even after the government sealed it in Season 2, the connection remained, dormant but not destroyed. The 4 gates that opened in Season 4 all radiate from that central point. Following the rift lines that spread from the lab, the theory argues that you can't truly seal the Upside Down without addressing the original breach. Every other gate is secondary, a symptom rather than the disease. To end the threat permanently, the characters must return to where it all started, to the ruins of Hawkins' lab. Owen's research likely contains data about the first gate's unique energy signature, information that could explain how to close it properly. The lab still stands, damaged but accessible, waiting for one final confrontation. This creates perfect narrative symmetry. The series began with 11 opening a gate at the lab. It would end with her closing that same gate, correcting the mistake that started everything. The location itself holds significance. The place where 11 grew up, where Brenner experimented, where the entire nightmare began. Returning there for the finale would bring the story full circle. Dustin's guilt. Dustin Henderson carries crushing guilt over Eddie Munson's death and will attempt a dangerous redemption in Season 5. Eddie sacrificed himself buying time for the others during the battle against Vecna's bats, playing master of puppets on his guitar while creatures tore him apart. Dustin held Eddie as he died, promising to tell his uncle that Eddie was a hero. When Dustin visits Wayne Munson at the end of Season 4, you can see the weight of that conversation destroying him. Eddie died following Dustin's plan, trusting the group's strategy, believing they would win. Dustin blames himself for not protecting Eddie better, for letting his friend become the sacrifice. The theory suggests this guilt will drive Dustin to take increasingly dangerous risks in Season 5. Trying to prove Eddie's death meant something. His scientific knowledge has always been crucial to the group's success, from understanding the Upside Down's ecology to building communication devices. In Season 5, he'll likely create something vital for the final battle, possibly a weapon or device that requires someone to operate it in extremely dangerous conditions. The theory proposes Dustin will volunteer for that role, putting himself in harm's way as penance for surviving when Eddie didn't. He'll want to prove he's worthy of the sacrifice Eddie made. The Hellfire Club will continue, keeping Eddie's memory alive. Dustin will wear Eddie's guitar pick or jacket, physical reminders of what was lost. His arc in Season 5 becomes about learning that honoring Eddie's memory doesn't mean dying like Eddie did. It means living like Eddie would have wanted, with courage and friendship. Vecna and Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer is the true villain of Stranger Things, and Vecna is merely its general. This theory challenges Vecna's claim that he shaped the Mind Flayer and commands the Upside Down. When Will was possessed in Season 2, the Mind Flayer demonstrated sophisticated intelligence and strategic thinking. It coordinated the Demodogs, manipulated Will's memories, and nearly succeeded in opening permanent gates. The Shadow Monster's form, a massive spider-like entity made of living darkness, suggests something ancient and powerful, not a creation of Henry Creel's imagination. Vecna tells Eleven he found the Mind Flayer as a formless cloud and gave it structure, but the theory argues he's lying or deluded. The Mind Flayer may have allowed Vecna to think he was in control, while actually manipulating him for its own purposes. Vecna serves as the Mind Flayer's physical avatar in the real world, a powerful psychic capable of opening gates and claiming victims. But the Mind Flayer remains the true intelligence behind the invasion. This would explain why defeating Vecna doesn't end the threat. You can kill the general, but the Emperor remains. Season 5 would reveal this hierarchy, showing that even with Vecna dead or neutralized, the Mind Flayer continues its assault. The characters would realize they've been fighting the wrong enemy, or at least not the final enemy. The Mind Flayer's goals remain mysterious, but they clearly involve consuming or transforming Earth into an extension of the Upside Down. Vecna is powerful, but he's still human in origin. The Mind Flayer is something else entirely, something that may predate humanity itself. Hopper's role. Jim Hopper's time in the Russian prison camp gave him unique importance to the final battle. The Russians didn't keep Hopper alive out of mercy, they kept him for a reason. Throughout Season 4, Hopper fights multiple Demogorgons in the prison's combat arena, exposed repeatedly to upside-down creatures and the particles they emit. He survives encounters that should have killed him, showing unusual resilience. The theory suggests this repeated exposure created a partial immunity or adaptation to upside-down contamination. The Russians may have been studying this, using prisoners to test human tolerance to upside-down elements. Hopper's survival makes him valuable because he can operate in environments that would kill or corrupt others. When the final battle comes, someone will need to enter the Upside Down directly, possibly to reach Vecna, or close the gates from the inside. Most humans can't survive prolonged exposure to that atmosphere. The particles cause hallucinations, physical deterioration, and eventually death or possession. But Hopper has built up tolerance through forced adaptation. The Russian scientists likely documented this, and Yuri or Dmitri may provide that research to the Hawkins group. Hopper's role in Season 5 would involve using his unique physiology as a weapon, going places others can't, surviving conditions that would kill anyone else. It transforms his suffering in Russia from pure trauma into a strategic strategic advantage. He endured hell, and that hell prepared him for the final mission. His experience also gives him understanding of the creature's behavior and weaknesses from fighting them directly. If this was worth your time, think about subscribing so you catch every new upload. Thanks for watching.